Ahead.
All right, terrific, folks. Thanks again. This is roundtable number six. We are recording today on April 13th. I am here with my dear friend and also colleague in Town Matters, who is also on the select board, Kathy Castronello. So, Kathy, thanks a lot. You've been a great resource for me, and I know for the town. I consider you a subject matter specialist in a couple of areas. One area that is still a mystery to me is the budget. You're like a former auditor, so there's we rely on you for a lot of good things. So thank you for
Good.
your service.
Oh, of
Uh,
course.
what we wanted to do here is spend maybe 20 minutes or so, and just this one here, instead of doing a deep dive into anything particular or any specific article, maybe do a little bit of a helicopter view about
Yes,
the warrant, what it looks like, what are the chapters, and then
correct.
and
Yeah.
really, and then your perspective is important to me. And I know you add a great deal of value to our town. So I'd be interested in knowing what's special, what's unique about this year's town meeting. Is this something we should be looking for? How can we prepare? So anyways, table of contents, the big areas, there's six of them. There's general government matters, general bylaws, zoning bylaws, community preservations, appropriations, and enterprise funds. And, in talking to town council and meeting with Rebecca and talking to other officials and some folks in towns, I think we have four, maybe five articles that are, I'm not going to say contentious, but consequential, meaning that they're, big impact to our community. And so what I propose and what Kathy proposes and what we promote is the idea of, can we be ready for the meeting? Can we do a little bit of homework? Look at these round tables. Go to the website. Right there, prominently off to the right, you can instantly click on the posted article and you can begin reading it and become familiar with it. No matter what we do, Kathy, we've been doing this a long time. People are busy. We understand people are busy. They're not going to read minutes. They're not going to attend long meetings or watch long sessions. But we want to hopefully try to prevent fewer and fewer people from coming in and opening up this document and seeing it for the first time minutes before the meeting starts on April 27th. So tell me, how do you feel about the town meeting this year? Anything exciting? Anything troublesome?
Um,
Or what's special
well,
this year's
no,
meeting?
I think when I look at the warrant this year, like the articles, a lot of the articles are
Hmm.
just cleaning up things, if you want to call it kind of a cleanup kind of mechanism.
Oh,
Um, where like the article on the Capitol is just cleaning up what the Capitol uh, fund is for and all that good stuff. We're cleaning up the town administrator bylaw, so the town administrator is our personnel director. We're cleaning that up a little bit. Um, there's a piece of property that we had already accepted and all that, but we neglected to bring it through the town meeting process.
mm,
So cleaning
hmm,
up,
hmm,
those are the kind of articles that you can read the summary at the bottom and you'll recognize it as a cleaning up article, that we're not making a big decision here. We're not shifting the town operations or anything. We're just going after things that were done in the past
mm.
and prior to a town administrator bylaw. And now we're cleaning up. And that,
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. It's a good choice of words, cleaning up. Like I worked on the administrative bylaw, town administrative bylaw, but you know, Rebecca's a very busy person. We're very fortunate to have her. She does a great job, and she, got around to studying our work, and that's what I like about this year's town meeting is I read it in plain language. We're just tightening things up a little bit, making it a little bit more easy to understand.
correct.
Cleaning things up. It's almost like we went through. Somebody took the time to do an audit on how we do things and say, can we explain it better? And
Right, right.
and I think you're right. I saw that across quite a few things. It was nice to see, just fine tuning, if you will.
Right, right, and
Not
so,
making any big changes, just like we've already made the change, but can we explain it
right.
better? Can we explain it
And
better?
yes,
Yeah.
and so with respect to the articles that come in the front of the warrant with Beach
Mm,
Park, those articles are just identifying the short-term lease of the property by the Conservation Commission, who has a director who tries to keep activities going up there, which also
hmm
generates revenue for VZ Park, separating that from the rental properties for people that have leased and rent property up there.
hmm
So that's kind of another, it's sort of going to clean everything up from 30 years back when there wasn't a lot of direction for the town on this whole issue of what to do about, we already had renters on the property when the town purchased it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I believe what we did at that time was we just continued whatever that lease was. Um,
Okay.
and then over time, of course, people move. The renter at the bottom of the hill eventually moved, and it became time for somebody else to move in. And I believe the Conservation Commission kind of took the lead in that.
hmm
And now we're looking to kind of separate that. I think it'll make it easier for the Conservation Commission to manage the property and take care of it up the way it will. And all the proceeds from both articles must go to VZ Park. So these
Hmm.
are the things that will sustain the park. And over time, hopefully,
Sure.
a nice reserve for it. So
Sure. Sure.
those are kind of important articles to just keep things moving ahead. They shouldn't cause any undue panic because we're already doing the things that are in those articles. We already have people renting property there. We already are doing short-term activities and different kinds of events up there. So that will just continue. Um,
Okay.
so that should be hopefully very straightforward in terms of different kinds of articles. You mentioned
hmm
the right to farm article, and honestly, it just kind of reaffirms what we are, a small rural town. We have a few
hmm
farms in town, and then we have hobby farmers in town. It just kind of connects the dots and says, this is who we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my mind, kind of the newest thing is we introduced a complaint path, no matter what it is that you're having difficulty with. If you are having
Hmm.
difficulty, there's a path now to follow, you know, to see if your complaint is something the town would deal with. We don't deal with all complaints. I mean, obviously, little things between homeowners on the same road or whatever, we
Yeah.
hope they can work it out.
Yeah.
But this gives some avenues to consider if you feel like you're unable to resolve your situation or your problem. It gives you a path at least.
So that complaint procedure,
Yeah,
okay, is that enumerated in one of our articles? Is something we're
it's
going to
it's in
decide on?
the yeah, it's in the right to farm article. I'm just
Okay.
a number article that was.
Now, I didn't want to do a deep dive, but give give
Um,
give us a little bit of your perspective about right to farm. And I think you've touched upon something that's
yeah,
really important. If people move to Groveland, certainly we have a history, we have a tradition, we have a culture that we are, to some degree, certainly have a history of being a farming community.
yes,
And there's a general feeling that we want to preserve that within limitations, of course.
of course, yes. And I mean, we do have certain farmland that is under protection, under the, reduced.
Yeah.
So it all goes hand in hand with trying to protect the larger farms, by giving them the tax break incentive so they can
Okay.
continue farming and not have to pay taxes on the land as if it was going to be developed. And the right to farm just kind of, I think it just really says what we are, who we are. I mean, it's just a very general outline of the town and the fact that we are a farming community. We have farmland,
hmm
we have farms. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we intend to continue that and we intend to help preserve that. So it just lets people know. I mean, it's kind of funny, I think that, as you move to town, somebody has to put it down on the sale that this is a town that has farms in it. Like, duh, that's why people move here. right? Because it's so beautiful and you see
Okay,
people.
so if I so okay,
Yeah,
so if I live next to a farm and so this is really interesting because what I learned
yeah.
is, if I buy a piece of property next to a farm or nearby a farm, there has to be a disclosure, and that disclosure has to be signed by me plus the farmer next to me.
Uh,
And, just so we understand, we don't have a problem. It's, hey, what's that smell or that sound?
It's a,
But if I do have a complaint about smell and sound, now you also created a procedure on how to handle that.
yeah, yeah. It's
Okay,
just
that's
it's a
interesting.
very it's
That's
a
great.
very general thing. It doesn't say, there's no
Great.
fines attached or anything. It just gives you an idea, that if you have a problem with some aspect of farming near you and you feel like it needs to be resolved, it gives you some ideas on where you can go. Who should you contact? Obviously,
That's great. That's really good.
you can come
Really
to the select board for generally anything. Um,
sure.
and then if something is really serious, of a health concern serious, then yes, you could contact our Board of Health and see.
Sure,
Oh,
sure. You could have a health issue, a concern, you could have a police matter, you could have a fire, you know,
right. I mean,
but you have a procedure on how to get this funneled to the right
right,
people.
right. So this is
Good.
just, like I said, a very general outline that just doesn't really change anything in our town at all. It just
Yeah,
reaffirms what we are.
yeah.
And so,
Just cleans it up, like you say, cleans
yeah,
it up.
yeah, it cleans it up and without putting a lot of restrictions and counts on hobby farmers. We didn't do that because
Mhm.
in general, we hope that people can be cooperative and reasonable, as you do in a neighborhood when you're living close quarters to people. You
Yeah,
be
yeah.
reasonable, you know.
And
Um,
we are a small town, and that's my
yeah,
hope. And we both have made comments personally, but also publicly that we wish for people to get along and to resolve their issues as much as
yep,
possible. Absolutely. I mean,
right, right.
being a good neighbor requires. It's easier to be a bad neighbor.
Yes.
It's harder to be a good neighbor and try
Yeah.
to make things work. So
Right. So
yeah,
hopefully, this will highlight that we are a
yeah,
farming community and also reaffirm that, if you're having difficulty and you can't seem to have a meeting of the minds, there is a resolution for disputes that you can follow the path and see if that helps resolve it.
yeah, exactly. Without litigation, without getting
Correct. Yeah, we don't want that.
This is a great. I was so intrigued by the words that you use, cleaning up. Here's a great. It's not hard to find examples of cleaning things up.
Yep.
Now, I remember writing some of the words in the town meeting, town administrator bylaws,
Oh,
and
yes.
so now I am happy to see that some of those words that we wrote last year have been scratched out, eliminated, because in simple terms, the town administrator shall serve as the personnel
Yeah.
director.
Yeah.
That's it. It's simple,
Right.
right? I
Right.
go to work. I'm an employee of the town. I know who my boss is.
Correct.
That's, or, or,
Right.
or who I go to if I have a grievance. It's so
Or you
simple.
have a problem or a concern, or
Yeah,
even just a question. It gives you
yeah,
a defined path. Because again, the select board now, we've moved into a role as an executive board. So we do not get involved in the day-to-day management of the town. We do more of an oversight and set direction and goals. Um,
yeah.
and
Very much the
yeah,
same model that people seem to, for some reason, people seem to understand that because it's always been like that, as far as I can remember, with a school committee. A school committee does not manage the school.
right, exactly.
Principals manage their buildings under
Yeah,
the direction of a superintendent, and
correct,
we provide. We certainly approve budgets, we set policies, we approve major things, but we're not reaching into the schools and managing that. And
correct.
the
Yeah,
history of our town for many years, from decades ago, with a three-member board, it was a little bit of a quasi governance plus, being a little bit involved. But, life has gotten a lot more complicated.
right.
Um, New laws, new rules. It's a
Yeah.
different world. So our town has evolved. And what you just mentioned is a great reminder. You folks now, the select board is an executive board,
Yes.
not a management board.
correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a good point. Really
So,
good point.
yep. So we work with the town administrator as much as possible to reduce the amount of things that have to be on the warrant and also while keeping it informative and
Hmm.
allowing enough information, like the little
Hmm.
summaries at the bottom. Hopefully, those will really help people. You can, if people are looking over the warrant, probably one of the quickest things to do is scroll to the last line of an article and see what it's all about. One thing that might confuse folks a little bit is further in the warrant, there will be transfers, I believe, that go into this current year, which we're allowed to do that way now.
Hmm.
This simplifies it. We have one warrant instead of two. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm dating myself when I say I remember the two warrant thing, how confusing it was. People be like, what warrant are we on now and why? And no, I know we do it now all at once. And I think the transfers are towards the end of the warrant. They are. And they're very straightforward. And again, if you look down to the summary,
Could you tell me what article you're referring to? I'll
I'm
post
looking at,
if you can look it up.
okay, there's the free cut, that's for this year. I'm trying to see which ones go into the prior year. Uh, I'm thinking it might be, that's the free cash. I was just looking at it. Let me just see.
That's okay. Take your
What about
time.
the town meeting
Find
thing?
it. Let's find it. Let's look it over
Yeah,
here.
yeah. No, because it's important because when it pops up, it always catches my eye because I go, what is that for? And then I go, oh, that's the. Yeah, okay. So Article 27. It
Okay, let's
might
take a look at that. That's great. I
be
appreciate
the
it.
only one because, and now I know, um, when we have extra money in a regional school account, the select board cannot transfer it. So we're allowed to, after a certain date in, I think it's May, we're allowed to approve, we don't make them, we approve line item transfers towards the end of the year to balance the budget.
Okay.
So if a department is going to run over in one line and they have not money in another line in their own budget, often we transfer that way. But if it's a school budget, we can't, the select board cannot move money out of an assessment for a school. So that's why we're going to the town meeting and asking them, this money is available in this current year's fiscal budget. 82,500, and we're going to use that to help pay off the snow and ice, the technology account.
Yeah, so I mean, this is like
Yeah,
really, I'm so happy you brought this out. This is like plain language.
yes,
I don't have to be a budget specialist here. All I know is 82,500 dollars that was originally committed to the Essex Technical School was
yeah,
not used for that
no,
purpose.
it wasn't
And
even,
and so, we're asking town meeting, would you allow us to use it for this other stuff? It's
right,
really
well, no,
simple.
because the
So
select
simple.
boards, we're not allowed to move money out of
Yeah,
this.
okay. Nice.
So,
That's so
so
nice.
this is
That's a
the only way
great
to move
design.
it. And
Yeah.
again, if somebody were to go down the path, well, what if we don't want to do that? Okay, fine. That
Yeah.
money will sit there and will wash out to our free cash and we'll go
Yeah.
elsewhere to find the transfers. But it's a lot easier to do it this way and more straightforward.
Yeah. No, it's great. And I was looking at this the other day, and it's nice to see where money is going, what the limits are, and so forth. I have to say, I know I mentioned this at public meetings. Again, hard work and commitment by so
Yeah,
many people. We have a balanced budget. We don't have a balanced budget at the federal level in Washington,
we
but
still do it at the town, down to the dollar too, down
uh,
to the
we
dollar.
we we operate in a yeah, we operate, and we
Yeah,
and we do it. We fund everything, and I know that there's a wish list and a needs list for everybody, but we get it done as a community without, you know, open
right,
complaints and without asking our residents for more money in overrides or
right.
debt
Yeah.
exclusion. It's
Um,
wonderful. It's
right.
wonderful.
As an overview, the approach that the town, the select board and the town administrator, it's a very conservative approach. So the revenue estimate, of course, taxes, we know how much we can collect because 2.5%. But when it comes to town receipts and all, we take into account, if there's inflation going on and we feel that, car sales may drop a little, we're conservative on estimating the receipts, because again, we don't want to have a bailout at the end of the year. We don't want to have a burden for our taxpayers going into the next fiscal year. We want to make sure that we can pay all our bills in this
Oh,
year.
yeah,
And I,
absolutely.
and I think it's because of that commitment, both the select board, the finance board, the town administrator, with the support of the town meeting, this is the message that we've been able to get through to everybody every year to say, this is a balanced budget.
You're right.
We've
Right.
had, we're glad to answer questions on it and hear any concerns, but it's been reviewed by the financial department here in town. It's been reviewed by finance board, which is a group of your peers in the community. It's been
Hmm.
spoken about now at roundtable 5 or 6 we're at, I guess, right? So a lot of information has been spoken of already. Um,
Hmm.
and to be honest, when it comes to the total budget for the town, there's not a lot that can change because most of our budget is tied up with assessments. 60 to
Hmm.
65% are the school assessments. Then you have assessments for retirement benefits, health insurance, street lights,
And,
all the
and,
same
and, and
things.
in plain language,
Yeah.
what's the definition
The bottom line
that,
is, out of a $25 million budget, we're probably below 10 million or even below that we have any real flexibility on.
wow.
It's
Yeah,
a very
makes sense.
small piece of that budget. So that's why we worked so diligently to bring in a trash contract that we could balance within it.
Hmm.
And so when people say, well, why we want to, some people used back in the day, we'd go through the line items, but that was also at a time when things weren't as complex. We didn't have as many articles back then either, because there weren't as many laws and mandates that we had to adhere to. So um, the need to like condense the warrant a little bit while still
Yeah,
providing everybody with the information. I
yeah,
think there's only one position being added within this town hall in that budget,
yeah,
and it's a very small position. It's going to help out both the treasurer and the accountant. I think both sides wanted more support, but we weren't able to provide two positions. So town administrator came up with the idea of kind of a floater who could be moved when someone was out, or, because these are one person offices. Many of these offices, we have one individual. If they're on vacation, who's going to cover? If something happens to them and they're unable to come into work, who's going to do the work? So this is a sort of a plan to kind of make sure there's a stopgap for that one person office in case something goes wrong and we need
yeah,
somebody else who
yeah,
knows where things are and
yeah.
has a basic understanding. So,
Good, good.
yeah,
And
yeah,
when we pass the budget, it's not like a line item budget. So I mean, one thing that I
yeah,
can't I just a kind of an operating principle that I'm going to use at town meeting is that I'm basically not going to allow even a discussion about making a change in a line item because we don't even build the budget that way. We do it by big categories like we see here. 2.7 million for government, general government, 2.4 for public safety. And then the reality is, even though technically we could end a town meeting without an approved budget, that's something I really wouldn't want to do. And I don't think anybody in town wants to do that because we're going to have to come back at a special meeting in the fall to pass a budget. We want to get the budget done. If
we
people do
do.
have a concern about a specific line, we certainly can still pass the budget, and that concern can be brought forward even after the budget's been passed.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
maybe somebody can make a case that within that big category called public safety of 2.4 million, maybe shifting money around inside of there could work, but we can do that after the budget is passed.
Right. I mean, for people that are concerned about whether or not we're tracking the line items, let me assure you that our accountant, she's the top staff on that, and she's all over the line items. We get
Yeah,
the
yeah,
reports from her. She gives us updates on which lines are running true to course, which
Yeah.
line she's watching and why. And
Yeah.
it also gives us a heads up on anything that could be problematic closing out. But the point is, she takes these general categories from Article
Yeah.
35 and she has them broken down into line items. So the line items
Yeah.
are
And I
being tracked,
understand,
and there is accountability in the
yeah.
departments. They work hard to stay within their budget and within their line items as much as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about passing the fiscal 2027 budget.
Yes.
So that's on April 27 at town meeting. I
Yeah.
believe that I believe that working on the budget for fiscal 2028 begins the next morning, April 28th.
I thought we could take a week or so off, maybe.
No, I mean it's like ongoing. It's
It is.
unbelievable. It's so complicated.
Yeah. I mean, the summertime, even though it's kind of vacation, family time,
Yeah, yeah.
select board, I know we try to get a jump on a few things that we think
Sure,
going to be
sure.
important for the next year. That last summer was all about trash and recycling all the way into the fall. We had a lot of forums, a lot of great discussions.
Yeah,
And ultimately, I think this contract is going to be really
good,
improvement for the whole town, I hope. It's looking
good.
really good. So
Just a reminder, the trash contract, folks, is not a decision vested with town meeting. That is a decision that is the authority on that
correct.
decision rests with the select board. So we won't have this at the town meetings, but when are you going to make a decision on the contract for trash?
Oh, no, we've already made it. We've
You
approved
did?
the contract. It's built into the budget. It's balanced. The budget
Oh,
is.
okay. Okay.
And so there'll be a little bit of a crossover period of time where Mello will be our new hauler, is going to have a week or two crossover with waste management. And I know the driver that was doing Groveland was for waste management was doing a phenomenal job. And I
Yeah.
he probably appreciates how much support people have had for him from doing what was essentially a very difficult job because it was a manual pickup system for the most part. And now we are moving to that automated system that
Yeah.
will help everything flow easier, plus far less liability and injury for these workers that are involved in the trash and recycling industry. So,
It's
yeah.
a more humane way of picking up trash. I know the way we grew up, there were three people involved. There was a driver and two people jumping off the side. I remember
Oh,
that.
yeah, I know,
Oh,
right?
gosh, that wasn't, gosh.
Yeah.
Anyways, uh, so
So that,
last question before we wrap
sure.
up. From
Yep.
from your perspective, because I know that you look outside of our town. How is the funding from the state looking? Are we safe? Because I know that we're passing a budget in April, but we don't really know ultimately what the what the money from the amount of money that comes from the state
Uh,
is in
so,
for all
yeah.
the chapters, chapter 70 and chapter 90 and all of those. So how does it
Well,
look? How does it look to you?
from the point of view of the town's budget, there is such a small amount of, I mean, I'm not saying we don't want the money. We certainly want it. Bring it on in. But
Yeah,
we don't have to wait on that final number that much because it's a small piece. Most of our revenue is taxes. It's
yeah.
not state revenue.
Yes, out of 25 million, I think only like what 5.2 is
Yeah, it's so
from
small.
from the
From the
government.
receipts in government, yeah, it's small. It's very
But
small.
in this day and age, a few 100,000 either way could be a
Oh,
problem.
50,000 is still $50,000.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We're a small town. Yeah,
Small town,
it
and it
yeah,
matters that we do things right. So,
yeah, yeah. Good, good. Anything else, Kathy, before we wrap up?
no, not really. I feel like we're on a good plane here. I think we're heading to town meeting with a great warrant. I encourage people, any article that you have a question about, questions are fantastic, by the way. You don't have to get up there and be knowledgeable. Ask a good question. But
Yeah,
get up to the mic right away in advance of when your article's coming up. Like when you see it's like we're just two articles away and it doesn't look like we're going to have a long discussion, start maneuvering over to the mic stand because it helps the flow. And if you ask a question, I would say remain there for a moment or two because in case somebody from the board or from the it could be the town moderator or it could be the attorney is trying to respond to you, they might ask for clarification. So you should stay put for a minute to make sure that you don't have to say anything more, you know. But usually if you ask a question, you should stay there for a minute to make sure you get.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I think it's almost become a lost art that, people approach the microphone. Maybe too many of us believe that approaching the microphone means we have to have a stand on
Yeah,
on
no,
an
you
issue,
don't.
like I'm for or against. But sometimes it's like I don't even know where I stand. Maybe I'm just gonna ask a question. I mean, that's a really good point.
I think
Really good point.
the most powerful statement often in a town meeting is a good question.
Good question. Yeah,
Uh,
really good point.
Question
Yeah.
that makes people pause for a minute and think, oh, I never
Yeah.
thought of that,
I appreciate that. Yeah, I
Right.
appreciate
That's the
that's
best
good.
part of our form of government is that any one person can raise something that we all
Hmm.
have that aha moment and go, oh my, he's so right. That's exactly the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So good. Yeah.
Well, thank you again.
You,
Thank you
Joe.
for your service to our town, and
Yeah,
great job. I feel like we maybe we should take an afternoon off and celebrate. I feel like after town meeting,
we
that's
should.
like that's like the end of a long process that begins the next day. Budgeting and everything else.
It
So,
does.
but
It's,
but but it's great. It. I know that you get a lot of satisfaction out of supporting our town in various roles. So, and
yeah.
we're lucky to have you. So thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Have a good one.
All right. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, April
Yep.
27th, folks.
I know.
6:30 Bagnall School.
Yep. We'll be
Let's
there.
have a let's have a big turnout. All
Okay.
righty.
Thanks, Joe. Have a good
Take
one.
care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.